The curls are back, and I'm here to share with you guys the 14 books that I read in the month of April. I think 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, we did read 14 books. And I read one thriller, mostly romance. I read some new releases. I read lots of diverse reads. I also read some popular books that have recently come out, and some popular books that are on Book Talk. So there is a wide variety of books that I'm going to share with you guys and give you guys my just full opinion, all the thoughts. So make sure you subscribe. This week there are videos every single day of this week, so I hope you guys are enjoying them so far. I try to add in book week every few months, and I feel like whenever I do, you guys just absolutely eat it up, and I have so much fun with it too. So let's get into all of these books. I'm gonna kind of go in order of like where I started at the beginning of the month and like where I kind of ended. If you guys have watched all the vlogs, you might have seen some of my thoughts already, but I feel like this is the best, most in-depth way for me to share like how I felt about the book. I'll give like a little bit of a backstory for most of them and then just like jump right into it. The Housemaid's Secret is the second book in this series, and the third one actually comes out this year. So I wanted to read this book because I really enjoyed The Housemaid. I do think The Housemaid by Freida McFadden is not Freida McFadden's best book. I think Never Lie is Freida McFadden's best book, but I wanted to read this one, and this one disappointed me just a little bit. It wasn't like my favorite. I think I rated this one like 3 stars. It wasn't like bad, but I think because I rated The Housemaid 4 stars and I just have such high expectations for Freida McFadden's writing, I was expecting a little bit more. I kind of guessed the plot twist, and I also kind of just was, I don't know, I wasn't really like the story. I feel like with the stories with Freida McFadden's writing are always fast-paced, and that's what I expect when I go into Freida McFadden's writing. So this book felt not as fast-paced, and I think after reading The Teacher by Freida McFadden this year, I was just like, I don't know, I like The Teacher better than this one. But a lot of people have loved this book, so maybe it was just me, I don't know. But I feel like whenever I go into Freida McFadden's books, I just expect something to be like super, super, super fast-paced. Like the end of every chapter, at the end of every chapter, I don't want to put it down. It pulls me into the next chapter, and this one wasn't exactly like that. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't like, I wasn't obsessed with it. It was mid, which was why it was 3 stars for me. Then I read Expiration Dates. This book I also had higher expectations for, and I think because a lot of people have given this book really high ratings, I just expected it to also be something that I would really, really love. Again, it was okay. I feel like for a large part of this book, I was kind of like, where are we going with this plot? And then whenever we got to the end of the book, I was like, oh, okay, I understand. So yeah, this is one that was definitely different. It's about a girl who, she gets these slips of paper, and on the slips of paper they tell her how long she's gonna be dating the person that she's with. So she'll get a slip for this guy named Jimmy, and it'll say 2 weeks, and another one will say, you know, 5 months. And so she doesn't ever really trust who she's gonna be with until she gets one piece of paper that does not have an end date at all. So it was interesting because I think I expected the book to be about her dates, like that we would get a lot of backstory on her dates or dating experience, and I feel like it really was focused more on these 2 characters that were big parts of the book, but I was also like, okay, I don't know, it just felt like there could have been so much more from this book. I do think the ending really wrapped everything up in a really good way and made it more enjoyable, and it gave like bigger picture type of vibes. Like if you've read The Midnight Library and like that book, you understand what I'm talking about, where like the storyline was like, it's fine, and then you see the end and you're like, oh, this is the meaning of life. Like this is the meaning of this book, you know what I mean? That's kind of how this one was. I feel like you can really take a lot away from this. Then I read The Air He Breathes by Brittany Cherry, rated this 4 stars. I love, love, love her writing. If you've never read anything from her, please read one of her books. This is actually being made into like a TV show or a movie. It's about this girl who's told to stay away from this guy named Tristan Cole, and he is damaged. She is also damaged, and this book also has a lot of like toxic, what's the word? They definitely trauma bond in this, I'll say that. And they have a lot of like unhealthy coping mechanisms for grief that they're going through. But I feel like this book was so beautiful because it's very rare that you see characters in books who aren't coping perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if someone goes through grief, or if they go through a breakup, or if they go through something like that, they like cry and they like, you know, are sad to their friends and family, and then it's kind of like that's it. And I feel like you don't really get like how human people can be and how people are not always perfectly going to heal, and this book definitely captured that. I also think it showed a lot of representation for people who are trying to, and I don't want to spoil anything, so that's why I'm trying to think of how to say this, but representation for people who have gone through loss and who are trying to like continue on in life, because like that's so hard. Like there's a lot of like guilt there because you obviously are still mourning that loss, but also you want to continue your life. So this was so good. I'm definitely going to continue the series. I've actually heard that all the books in the series are the best, but I actually, before I read this one, I heard that this book isn't like that good. And I was so confused when I read it, and I was like, huh? Like, this book is so good. It reminds me a lot of Archer's Voice, like the vibe. Like if I were to recommend a book that's similar to, I feel like this would be the book that I would recommend. So yeah, really like this. Also, if you hear like a noise, my oven's probably about to like go off because I'm baking a cake. It's Brady's birthday today. So if that goes off, I'll just like go and stop it and then come back. But read Picking Daisies on Sundays. I also rated this 4 stars. Thought this was so good. It's so funny. There's actually like sand on this book because I took this to the beach. I feel like the writing of this was so beautiful. One of the most like beautifully written romance books that I've read in a very, very long time. It's a friends to lovers story. And I feel like that's something you also don't see done well very often, but these friends are like actually friends, and like, I don't know, it was very sweet, very wholesome. There isn't really spice in it, but there is. Like, there is a scene where they're definitely like getting very passionate and they're kissing and like, you know, you feel the emotions. It's definitely not written like a book for children, but there isn't like spice in it, if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like sometimes books will say no spice and it's like, okay, y'all can't even hold your hand. Like, you're adults, you know what I mean? And like, I get if you want no spice in like high school books and stuff, but like for actual like adults, like these people are in college. It was so refreshing to see that there was no spice, but it definitely alluded to them having like a physical connection, them being drawn to each other, but it was more focused on their like connection as friends and also their like intimate connection outside of a physical connection. It was just so beautiful. Really love this one a lot. I still think about this a lot. It's a book that I'll definitely recommend. 4 stars. Another book that I loved and ate up was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I literally went out to the bookstore to pick up this book while I was on vacation because I wanted to read it so bad. And this book is like 400 and something, 400 pages. And I read it in like only a few days. I love Abby Jimenez's writing. I love the banter. This was 4.5 out of 5 star, 4.5 out of 5 star rating for me. I feel like this book is so good if you have had a traumatic, not even traumatic, but if you've had a hard upbringing with your family and like your family dynamic is different. I feel like the Abby Jimenez touched on that so well in this book. But the book itself is about 2 people who every time they date someone, like if the girl dates a guy or the guy dates another girl, those people always end up breaking up with them and then they get married to the next person that they date. So both of them are like, oh, well, this thing always happens to us. Why don't we date each other? Because if we date each other, whenever we break up, we'll both find our soulmate. Of course, you guys know it's a rom-com. Like, they're going to start to have feelings for each other. But I feel like this is just, it was fluffy and fun, but it also had a lot of deeper themes, like being scared to trust, being scared to put down roots, being scared to love people because you have been hurt in the past. It was just so good. 4.5 out of 5 stars for me. Really, really loved it. I also came down from my little high after reading Just for the Summer by reading 2 books that I rated similarly but for different reasons. Love Redesign and Love Song for Ricky Wilde. Love Song for Ricky Wilde. I went into this expecting a romance, like a deep, passionate love, kind of like 7 Days in June. I expected to go into this with there being some themes outside of the romance, because I just know that's how Tia Williams writes, but I did not really enjoy this one that much. But I do think that if you like magical realism or you like historical fiction or historical romance, you will love this book. Like, absolutely eat it up. The reason I didn't care for it was because I don't care for those like themes in books, like, at all. And I knew that they would be sprinkled in, but I didn't think that they would be a heavy part of the book. And I almost feel like this should have been marketed more in the like fantasy genre. But maybe not, because like I feel like if you go into it expecting a fantasy, you're not going to be getting enough of that for you to be like, feel like it's sufficient. But it's definitely way more than the romance. Like, I feel like the romance is there, but like the magical realism and the historical fiction was heavy. The romance was so beautiful in this, and I feel like, again, if you like the magical realism, you will really like this. It talks a lot about Harlem, and it's set in like past and present timelines. I can't really say anything about this book because I don't want to spoil it, but just know that if you like those tropes, you will enjoy this book. And then this book right here, Love Redesign, I rated this one 2 stars, which is so sad because I really thought that this was going to be a 5-star read for me. And the reason I rated it that was literally because I was just so like bored throughout the book. I've read the Dreamland Billionaire series and I just could not stay invested in the story. Like, they are working on a house together, and I feel like it talked too much about the build of the house, and it had like the whole one bed trope, which I normally eat up, but it felt so outlandish because they were like hating each other, but then they weren't hating each other, and then like he seemed like this big strong guy, and then all of a sudden he's like insecure. Like, I couldn't really get a grasp on like what their relationship was to each other. I mean, I guess I could, but I was just like, pick one. Like, do you guys hate each other or do you not? Or do you like secretly like each other and then like you're gonna go from there? Like, that's fine if that's the case, but like, it was just so, I don't know what it was. I can't even put my finger on it, but I did enjoy the writing, which is why I finished this in a few days. It just was not super like fun to read. I feel like it was way too long. Can't wait for the second one though. I was thinking like, should I buy the second one? I don't know. But because the writing is so good, and I did love all 3 books in the Dreamland Billionaire series, I rated all 3 of them 4 stars. I feel like because I love those, then I will probably like the second one that comes out, hopefully. And then I also read Love You Always by Lauren Lacey. Y'all, this book is beat up. I ate this book up. Absolutely ate it up. Look at this. Look at this. I rated this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is by a Black author. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this book is by a Black author as well. I feel like if you don't know, you know, Brittany Cherry, you might not be able to tell from like the cover. Obviously 7 Days in June is by a Black author, but I feel like you can kind of tell from the cover. I like to mention those if you're looking for specific diverse reads. Love You Always by Lauren Lacey by a Black author. I am reading the rest of the series because I'm so obsessed with this storyline. This is about, oh my gosh, not me bending the book. I love this book so much. It was so close to a 5-star rating for me, but it just didn't give me that 5-star feeling. But this is one that's definitely going to sit with me, and I can definitely see myself rating the other 2 books in the series 5 stars because I love this one so much. This one is about Parker, and she has been so in love with her high school / middle school love for years, and then something pulls them apart. Y'all, this shows how immature relationships can be when you're young. It also shows how much growth that you can have as an adult. It touches on alcoholism. It touches on family dynamics and friendships that can really hold you up when you're really down. They go back and forth with each other because they feel like they're not good for each other and they feel like they are good for each other, but something pulls them apart, and you get to see from like age, I think like 10 or something, all the way to adulthood, and like how their life pans out is just such a beautiful story. I feel like this book reminds me of Love in Other Words because you get a lot of those moments when, you know, in Love in Other Words, when they're like in the closet and they're having their like first moments together, the first time they like ever kiss anyone, and like you're getting the nostalgic of like when you first started having feelings for someone, you first started to learn their body and learn your body. I feel like you get that in this book in a very similar way. You get those soft feelings and emotions that I feel like it's really hard to encapsulate that in a story. But you also get some mess. You get some crazy mess. This is by a Black author, but the characters are not. But the other two books, both of the characters are Black in those books. So again, about two childhood sweethearts. I love this book so much. I've been recommending it to everyone because I think there's only like 200 ratings on Goodreads or something like that. And it deserves way more hype than it gets right now. Then I read Wildfire, and you guys know that I did not enjoy Icebreaker at all, mostly because there was way too much spice for me. The first half of the book of Icebreaker I did enjoy. The last half I was like, what is this? Like, this is literally no plot, like just hookups. And I get it, it's college, so like I kind of understood. But this one, going into it, I was like, please let there be less spice than Icebreaker, and there definitely was, which made it more enjoyable. I also like how this book really focused on just like more things outside of just like friendships in college. I enjoyed how this had a lot of aspects of family. I thought that there were deeper conversations in this book than I even expected. So yeah, this one was fun, and I definitely will be reading the third book that comes out. I was telling myself if I don't like this book, I'm not going to continue the series, but I will. I definitely will. And then I also read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Y'all, you know I do not read fantasy, and I actually have a whole fantasy video coming. I'm reading 2 more fantasy books, but it's taken me longer to read them because I initially was gonna read them all back to back, but I literally can't. Literally can't. Y'all, how do fantasy readers read like as many books as romance readers? Like, I read usually like, I mean, I read 14 books this month. I read like 19 books last month, I think, or maybe I read like 15 last month, 19 the month before. I read a good amount of books, but I mean, reading is reading regardless. But y'all, fantasy readers, these books are thick. Like thick. Like, if you're reading fantasy books and you're reading 5 books a month, like, hats off to you, because these are thick and your brain has to be turned on. I enjoyed this book a lot. I rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I feel like this one was one that I thought I would like the most, and I really did enjoy it. I do wish, this is just me being a romance girly, I wish there was a little bit more, and I know there was so much romance in this, so like that's just a sign that like romance is for me. And it's not that fantasy isn't for me, but like I think I will always like romance more. If you love Divine Rivals, you will love this. Also, if you're a fantasy reader, the romance in this is a lot for someone who like this. I think had way more than Fourth Wing. This is just, it's a good book. I wish there was a little bit more dialogue. I think that's why Fourth Wing to me really stood out, because there was so much dialogue, but there was way more romance in this than in Fourth Wing. And again, you guys know I don't really read fantasy. I've literally read like 2 fantasy books other than this. This is my 3rd. I've read Shatter Me, I've read Fourth Wing, and I've read Powerless, and they've all been for videos reading about fantasy. I do have 2 more fantasy books coming that I'm reading. I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then I'm also gonna read another book that I haven't told you guys what it is yet. So really enjoyed this one. I feel like I will definitely read the next book that comes out after this. I feel like it was kind of left on a cliffhanger, so you really like want to read the next book, which I feel like is why people get so obsessed probably with fantasy. Because could you imagine being left on a cliffhanger with a romance book? Like, absolutely not. But like being left on a cliffhanger with this made sense. So really like that. Then I read the Mixtape, and guys, 4.5 out of 5 stars. I cried with this book. I read it in 2 sittings. I love this book. Now, some people have asked if Brittany Cherry writes about Black characters, and yes, the characters in this book are Black. The characters in the Holiday Dates are Black. She does have lots of books with Black characters. She also has lots of books that have characters who are not Black. So you can read tons of different types of like reading experiences depending on what you're looking for. But this book was so good. I can't really explain too much, but it's about Emery and Oliver, and Emery very much feels alone, and you learn about toxic family dynamics in this, but you also learn about like opening yourself up to love. Oliver, he's gone through something super traumatic and sad, so you see him dealing with that, and you really get into the depths of depression with him. And I feel like there are not enough depression there's not enough representation for depression in books. And so you're seeing 2 broken people, but they're not like broken in a sense of like trauma dumping on each other. They're just healing separately, but then kind of coming together, and it is so beautiful. Again, cried with this. There also is a younger child in this book, and I usually don't like books with kids in them, but I really loved her. Like, absolutely loved her, and it's very rare for me to like kids in books. So that was a very, very cute story. And then I also read People We Meet on Vacation. This was a book that I thought I would enjoy more because everyone kept saying that it was like the rom-com book for Emily Henry, and it was good, but I feel like it was one of those books that you just kind of had to follow, and there was no, like, there was nothing crazy that happened, which was fine. But I feel like in the hierarchy of Emily Henry's books, I would probably put Beach Read first, Happy Place second, People We Meet on Vacation third, Book Lovers fourth. I think, does she have any more that I haven't read? I think that's it, like, other than the new one, Funny Story, that just came out, which I will be reading soon. Love her book. She's an auto-buy author for me. This one, it was cute. I just feel like friends to lovers is my absolute favorite trope. Like, it's my favorite trope. So I feel like I always have high expectations for it, and I did enjoy it. I rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. So again, still very enjoyable, but I think I thought that it was gonna be like my favorite book of Emily Henry. And I don't know, maybe nothing will top Beach Read. Like, Beach Read is just, it's it. Like, that's, I love that book. So I don't know, really enjoyable, super funny banter. There were funny little things that happened in this book that made me laugh. Like, I was kicking my feet and giggling while I read it. Very enjoyable the whole time I was reading it. But it was one of those books that I might not remember like by next year. And then I ended up reading Sweet Hand by Angie Peltier. I think that's how you say the last name. This is a story that is set in Trinidad by an author who is Trinidadian. And one thing I really like about just books in general is you can learn so much about different cultures by reading books by authors who are not a part of your culture. Like, there were so many references to like Trinidadian culture that I was not aware of, and you can tell the author did not water that down at all. She didn't water down her culture to make it comfortable for me. Like, I had to go look up stuff to like figure out what things were, so I feel like you'll feel very seen if you're a part of that culture reading this book. The characters were cute. I really liked how there was really a soulmate connection between the friends in this book. And I feel like sometimes like friends between women in books, like romances and stuff, can sometimes be catty. Not always, but sometimes. And it was not like that at all in this book. It was just such a great representation of friendship. There's also a queer representation in this book, and I thought that that was really cool to see. There were just like a lot of good things that I enjoyed out of this book. I rated this one 3 stars. I will definitely continue the series in this book, or with this book. I think there's 3 that have come out so far, and I literally own all 3 of them, which I'm so glad that I enjoyed the first one, because if I didn't enjoy it, I don't know if I would probably continue. So yeah, that one was cute. And then I read Lipstick and Camera Clicks, and y'all, this book is still having me smiling just thinking about it. I rated this one 4 stars. If you like a love triangle that's actually done well, this is such a good book for that. Like, you will literally be like, who should she choose? Like, I like this person, but I also like this person. It's about a girl who goes onto a dating show, and she goes on the dating show because she's just kind of like, I don't really have the best reputation right now, and maybe this can fix that, but also like I can hype up my business because she's a makeup artist, so she's not really going on for love. Then she goes on and starts to have feelings for this guy, but she also kind of has feelings for this other guy as well, one of the producers of the show. So it's good. At one point in this book, the producer of the show, he like pulls her into a closet and is like, I have feelings for you, like, you shouldn't like try to fall for this guy like who's on the show, because like I want you. And like, that scene is spicy. It's so spicy. It's so good. Like, it's just, oh, it's so good. I really enjoyed this. It kind of came out of nowhere for me because I hadn't heard anything about this author, but I heard a lot of people rave about this book, so I'm like, let me pick it up. Did not disappoint at all. And I feel like a lot of the time I will have high expectations for books when people hype them up a lot. And this one literally met and exceeded some expectations. So this was a really good book. That is all 14 books that I read during the month of April. I'm really excited for this next month coming up because I have a lot of good books on my TBR. You guys know that I really try to read diversely, but I also try to read books by authors that aren't hyped up yet, so I can give you guys good book recs that you've never heard of before. So yeah, we're actually going to Mexico in May, so we have a fun trip coming up with friends, and one of my friends, she also loves to read, so we'll have some bookish chats and that. So make sure you subscribe, because there's a new video tomorrow for Book Week coming your way, and I hope you guys enjoy. Bye, guys!